And then there's the whole thing with God damn it, I lost my place.
That's what we can do in post. In post-production, you don't lose your place.
Right.
Welcome to the podcast that explores mysterious disappearances, bizarre worldly occurrences, strange phenomenon, and basically everything that's weird. Welcome to the podcast, everything that's weird. We are your hosts, Brandon and Anthony, and tonight we are talking about the hikers in Panama.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I remember when this happened. I had just been to Ecuador when this happened. And it's very freaky because it is, it's not Central America, but it's very similar terrain.
Yeah. It's relatively close too.
It's relatively close, yeah. I mean, they're pretty close. But I'll just let you go ahead and start it. You can go ahead and start telling the story. Go ahead.
All right. Well, the short story of it is that two Dutch hikers, 21 and 22, went to Panama and went hiking on a trail, and that was the last time they were seen alive. Now, why it's weird is because later on, evidence came up that it gave more questions than it gave answers.
Right.
So here's the long of it, though. When we got to start in the Netherlands, and I think we got a Netherlands listener.
We do, and we should probably give. Let's give a quick shout out.
I got the perfect thing for him. I have a compilation of famous people that are Dutch. Anne Frank, Matahari.
The Matahari, really?
Yeah. Rutger Hauer. You know him?
I don't.
Okay. Blade Runner.
Oh,
He was Roy Batty.
Okay.
He did the famous Tears in the Rain.
Okay.
That scene at the end.
Yeah.
He's also Hobo with the Shotgun for everybody else. He was the Hobo with the Shotgun.
Okay.
Femke Janssen, Jean Grey. She played Phoenix in X-Men.
Okay.
Kris Van Houten, who was the Red Witch or Melisandre in the Game of Thrones series.
All right.
Vincent Van Gogh, Rembrandt, Eddie Van Halen.
I didn't know Eddie Van Halen.
Eddie Van Halen. And then do you watch the Olympics?
Are you asking me if I watched the Olympics?
Yeah. Do you watch the Olympics?
Yeah.
The speed skater, they're known for their speed skating. If you watch the Winter Olympics,
it's my favorite one.
Yeah, they're big time in speed skating, and Sven Kramer makes that sport unfair. So I had to give a shout out for him. They are so go orange.
Yeah, why do they do that?
It's the color of the Dutch royal family. It came from William of Orange, who was the father of the fatherland. So there's a lot of story to that with why it's orange.
Okay.
So it's just the short of it's the color of the Dutch royal family. So they always do orange instead of the red, white, and blue of their flag.
Okay. Cool.
So and the country itself, like a quarter of it, I'm guessing this is why the speed skating comes in, is because a quarter of the country is below sea level.
Okay.
So it's real flat, and I imagine it fills up with water. It's the land of dikes. Ironically, it was the first country to legalize gay marriage.
Well. It's too much of a softball. I don't even want to take a swing.
Right. So it's
awesome though. It's a great country.
It is now.
It is now. And if I was going to live anywhere else, I would live there. God.
It is now because they got a little bit of a black eye. I mean,
yeah,
they were a huge part of the Atlantic slave trade.
They were.
Big part.
But
you know, because they were really good at sailing. They had lots of boats.
Right.
But they weren't so good at logistics. 100,000 Jews taken out of there during the Holocaust. Right. And they were taken to extermination camps, and there's only a few of those people survived. But
so I didn't go to the Anne Frank Museum, but I saw it when I was in Amsterdam. Mm-hmm. Amsterdam's the best city on earth. I love it. It's the coolest place to be. There's so many museums. Aside from being able to get high in a cafe and then having to go walk next door and have a beer, it's still very cool, very open. You kind of sit on the veranda, just kind of people watch. It's very, very, very cool. Canals.
Did you know that drugs and like marijuana and stuff they're not legal?
Right.
It's there's a tolerance thing for soft drugs.
Yeah, you're not allowed. Like, a lot of people think you just walk around and smoke pot.
Yeah,
you are.
You gotta be in the coffee shop, right?
Gotta be in the shop.
Yeah.
Like,
if you're air quotes coffee shop,
right?
Because they can't even call it a weed shop,
and they don't want you in there. Like, if you're getting high, they're like, "All right, you getting tea?" And you're like, "Yeah, I guess I'll have tea." And then, 2 minutes later, they're like, "You finished with your tea?" They're like, "Well, I was gonna hang out for a little bit." They're like, "Nah, smoke a joint. That's why you're here. Get out. Pay for your tea." So they don't want you there.
Right. That's funny.
Sorry. Okay.
That's hilarious. So. Okay. So the hikers.
Yes.
Wunderlust. I hope I said that right. Kris Kremer, 21, open, creative, responsible. She was born on August 9th, 1992 in Amersfoort to Hans and Rolly. She had recently completed some studies in cultural social education, primarily in art education at Utrecht University. And Lisanne Froon, 22, aspiring, optimistic, intelligent, and a passionate volleyball player.
I mean, they're cute girls.
They were.
They're
she was
cute,
6
like,
foot tall.
back-
Did you know that?
I believe it.
Lisanne Froon was 6 foot tall.
She's the brunette one.
She was the taller one, obviously. She was the not red.
She looks like a volleyball player.
Mm-hmm.
She's got that kind of body. Yeah, I mean, they look like right out of college European backpackers, people traveling the world after they, graduated.
Right, and she had just recently graduated from Deventer with a degree in applied psychology.
Damn.
So
they're no dummies.
No. And then, so after she graduated, Lisanne moved in with Kris into her dorm flat, and they both worked at the same cafe restaurant together.
Okay.
And so as soon as they started doing that, they planned this trip to celebrate her graduation. Well, it was like a kill 3 birds with one stone. They were going to go celebrate her graduation. They wanted to learn Spanish, and they wanted to help kids. So they were going to go over there and work with a school and help kids and stuff, So the whole plan was like, they planned it for like 6 months. They were saving up their money. They planned to stay there 6 weeks. And so they flew in on March 15th, and they did this like 2-week trek across Panama to go to Phuket.
Right.
And they got it to Phuket on the 29th of March.
And they had a host family they were staying with, right?
Yeah, but when they got there, the thing was they were going to stay with this host family, and then they were going to go help at this school. When they got to the school told them they were a week early. And Kris actually wrote in her journal that they were pretty rude about it and weren't helpful at all, and told them that they had nothing for them because they were a week early.
So they're just kind of like hanging in.
So they didn't have, yeah, right. So now they got nothing for at least a week.
And she was like, I read where she was like, she sent a text that said she was really disappointed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but she got at some point she like got herself back into it, because I think one of her posts said, "I'm just gonna do that Panama thing" or something like that. So, so it was like a win in Panama. So, I guess.
All right, I'll take that. That's a good.
So, on April 1st, 2014, they take off. They go have brunch. There's a rumor that they were seen with 2 Dutchmen before.
Well, I saw pictures of them like hanging out.
Yeah, but I don't know. Some of these pictures are getting thrown around where I don't know if they're reference or if they're chronological or what. So
they're not from their camera, which we'll get to later.
Okay, so I'm like, how the hell did they know they were Dutch?
you know.
When you know,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they're seen eating brunch with these 2 Dutchmen before heading out, and that's when they posted on social media that they were going to walk around Phuket, but that was before they went off on the trail, I guess. But at some point they go up on the trail that's in the clouded forest. It's called the El Pensionat or El
Yeah.
Pianista.
Right. That's a tough one. I
can't read my own writing. Pianista Trail. And they apparently take the family's dog Blue with them. It's like a dog they keep down at the restaurant and stuff, because I guess they own that restaurant, right? That they were eating at. Mm-hmm. So, thing was, though, the dog comes back alone. No Lisanne and no Kris.
That's never good.
And there's some point, I guess Lisanne was checking in on an app called WhatsApp with her parents. She did it like all the time.
Right.
And it stopped at some point, and they got concerned. And nobody saw them the rest of that night. And then the police were alerted to this, that they were missing. And they chose to do nothing. Apparently.
It wasn't until the mom and dad. Right.
Yeah. There was 4 days later.
And the mom and dad were like something's totally wrong, and they bring cops. They bring like
they brought Dutch authority
police.
and
Right.
lawyers and everything. Well, the thing is that in that time frame between April 1st and when the police actually got involved, local guides, certified guides, because they get certified as guides, and there's certain guidelines to what they do and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And all the local guides and a bunch of concerned citizens got together and started launching searches. They went looking all through there for her, those two girls. And so when the police got involved, the police told the guides that get paid to go in and out of that place all the time to back off and go home. And the police took over the investigation.
Yeah.
And then they just botched it up and then gave up on it. And it was like 9 weeks later when a local indigenous woman came in with a backpack that belonged to Lisanne, and it had inside it, she claimed she found it in the river behind a rock while she was tending her rice fields. And she said that she was certain it wasn't there the day before.
Right.
And in the backpack were 2 bras, 2 pairs of sunglasses, both the girls' smartphones, Lisanne's camera and passport, a water bottle, and $83. And all the contents
and
were
all
pretty
of
dry.
it's clean, right? They were like clean, right?
Yep, everything was dry and clean.
So like it's jungle. Why is there this spotless backpack with relatively clean contents in the middle of the jungle?
That's been sitting out in the jungle for 9 weeks.
Right.
So then once that was found, it sparked a whole new investigation, obviously. And they went back in, and with the help of a local guide and these tribesmen, they located pieces of bone. And they found boots, and they found one of the boots still had the remains of a foot in it. Mm-hmm. It was all bone.
Mm-hmm.
So they bring those foot fragments back and DNA test them, and it confirms that at least some of the bones were Lisanne's and Kris's. Mm-hmm. Now, there was like 3 other people not identified. Mm-hmm. There had bones in those remains. There was 3 other individuals in those bone fragments they found. Mm-hmm. So, and the bones were in like different states of like decay.
Some were even like considered bleached, as if
they
said.
Some bleached, and then some still had. They even found a piece of, I think, Kris's flesh.
Right.
And so they didn't find skulls, they didn't find ribs, they didn't find anything. They found a piece of, I think, Kris's pelvis, because it was Lisanne's foot that was in the boot.
Yeah.
So they went searching all up the river, and about 1.5 miles up, they found Kris's shorts. That's these jean shorts. You can see her in the picture she's wearing. They found them zipped up. The person that found them swears that they were zipped up and folded and laying on the rock.
Right.
Above the water line by one of those, what they call a monkey bridge, which was 3 cables. You stand on one and you hold the other 2. And if you've ever been on them, they're notoriously shanky and shaky.
I can't imagine why.
It's funny. As soon as I saw one, I started shaking.
But they do have a camera, and they did take some pictures. So there's some clues, but it actually makes it more mysterious.
And it does, because they open up their phones and they find out that they were trying to call like 911, and what's the Netherlands version of that is 211. Right. And they were trying to call both those numbers, and they attempted it like 7 times to call those numbers. And the first attempt was made maybe 5 hours after they left.
Now, when they went up the trail, they got up there relatively quick because they were in good shape. They're young.
Yep.
But then they went off trail.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they went off trail, that's where it kind of gets
sketchy.
That's where it gets sketchy because there's a lot of different things going on.
Mm-hmm.
Animals, gangs, lot of
Floodwater
stuff. Floodwater, right?
Flash floods.
So at this point, they're lost. They have been gone for how long? 10 weeks when they first find them.
When they found the bones, that was 9 weeks after they went missing. The last phone attempt at a phone call. The last time one of their phones was turned on and then turned off was on April 12th. 11 days later.
So
it's hard to believe 2 girls stayed alive with no food and water or shelter in the jungle and a rainforest for 11 days. It's a pretty crazy time.
That is crazy. That is crazy.
Good for them if they did, but
they're young.
Boy, howdy.
They do have water. It's not like there's no food.
Mm-hmm. But at some point, they had to either abandon or lost that bag that had some water in it.
Right.
So they open up the phones and they see these calls. And at some point on Kris's phone, you can see on both their phones that they were just turning them on to check for signal and then powering them back off.
Right.
They never made an attempt. They didn't enter a pin or nothing. And then there's a point on Kris's phone that somebody tried to enter her pin a total of 77 incorrect times. And the pin on her phone was never correctly input again.
Why didn't it lock it?
I don't understand that either. They said it had 77 attempts, incorrect attempts, and I'm pretty sure hers was the iPhone. I thought hers was the iPhone.
I mean, my son will disable my iPhone in like 30 seconds.
Right.
And I won't be able to get into it for like a half hour.
Yeah. I don't know if it was maybe because it was like, I don't know. It wouldn't make sense that it would need a signal. It would lock itself, you'd think.
Yeah, they do lock themselves. So then they start looking through the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of like mysterious pictures. Like you can see these online.
Yeah.
So, we'll describe some of them coming like in the next segment, but like
one of them has relevance, I think.
One of them does. One of them does. I think we're probably talking about the same one.
Yeah.
But like for the most part, they're real abstract.
Yeah.
And you don't know if it's like to maybe see their way, scare something off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's endless.
There's a lot of theories about the
Right.
reason why there was those pictures exist.
So this part of the world, especially like, I guess it's rainforest, right? Panama is rainforest.
Yeah. In Panama, what we found out in Panama is that as bad as the Dutch are at logistics, United States and the French are bad at digging ditches. Because like 5,600 people died digging the Panama Canal, and it's said that was just what was reported to the hospitals. It's said that it's possibly as high as 22,000 people.
So, God, that's crazy for the Panama Canal.
For the Panama Canal, yeah.
So, I do know that. So, like, one of the things when Obama ran, they said that they wanted to see his passport. And I'm not going to get political. I'm just going to tell you one theory I heard. They wanted to see his birth certificate and where he was born or whatever. Well, one of the reasons everybody's like, why didn't John McCain just hammer that home?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was born in Panama. And if Panama, even though he was born on a military base, so there's really like obscure wording about being a citizen.
Right.
So like if your mom's a citizen, and Barack Obama's mom's from Kansas. technically you're a citizen if you're born. Okay. So John McCain's dad was an officer, and he was born on a base. But he was born in Panama, so he had dual citizenship. But the United States no longer recognizes Panamanian people. So they didn't want to push it because he was about as legitimate as Obama was.
That's the guy from Kansas.
Well, right. Because Obama's mom was from Kansas, and that's when they say naturally born. That's what they're saying is that, like, because if you're pregnant and you have your baby in Italy because you're on a cruise and you missed your flight, like your kid's still American,
right?
So like that was the whole argument for Barack Obama. His mom's from Kansas, wherever he was when he was born, it doesn't matter. But he said he was born in Hawaii, fine. But the reason I heard a lot of political people talk about why McCain didn't push that was because he was born in Panama, right? He's Panamanian.
He's a Panamaniac.
Right? He's a Panamaniac, which is interesting. So but this area of the world, there's tons of things that can kill you.
Lots of things that can kill you.
I mean, I was in Ecuador a bunch of times, and I can just tell you this: you do not just roll into the jungle or the rainforest.
Right.
Like I saw a tarantula so big that I straddled it with the car that we rented and drove over it. And I'm like, that was a tarantula. That's how big it was, you know?
Right.
And, you know, there's jaguars, there's monkeys, there's all kinds of, like, not to mention the insects. Like the insects, like the mosquitoes are like birds. I mean, it's for real. The snakes. I mean,
the thing that got most of the Panama Canal people was the mosquitoes.
Yeah. But you know, there's tons of dangerous, like every kind of animal that there is. There's a deadly one of those there in the rainforest. So for them to just go off, you know, path was a little irresponsible.
Yeah, there's like a coral snakes, there's pit vipers.
And they weren't dressed for it at all.
Mm-mm. They weren't prepared either. They had one backpack. Right,
they're dressed for like an afternoon hike.
The thing that's odd though is that both of and I'm guessing it was the ones they had on, because if you look in the picture, you can see under Lisanne's arm on the one where it looks like the bra that they found in the backpack is the one that she had on. Right. So I can imagine if like you like, you know, the wire was getting to you and stuff, and you took them
lay down to get to sleep or something.
Well, you put them in the backpack. So I don't think there was anything weird to that there was their bras were in the backpack, but it was kind of odd that her shorts were on the rock.
All right, so there it is. There's two Dutch hikers. They go to Panama. They're there to teach, learn Spanish,
and celebrate.
Because they just graduated college, and they go on this hike, and they go up to the top of this mountain and take a detour on the way down, go off trail, and when they do, they're never seen again.
Right.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. Second, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. When people ask you, what do you do for a living? Do you want to be able to tell them, I'm a producer? Well, now you can. Go to patreon.com, search everything that's weird, and sign up. We'll list you in all of the show notes and mention you in every episode. Go to patreon.com to get started today. So what makes this super interesting is that there's this kind of like it's like a game being unintentionally played. There's a whole roll of photos.
Yeah.
And these photos are like
very odd.
Very odd. Very odd is that's a good way to say it. They really don't have any solid meaning. It's like one is a picture of the back of her head.
Yeah, and I saw something where they said that they thought they saw like a bit of blood in her hair in that photo.
See, and I've been trying to look at that several times. I didn't see it.
Yeah, I didn't see it either. But I didn't see a lot of things because I saw they had there's quite a few people have been digging into this, and there was a group that I was looking at that looked real deep into this, and they even actually went there and hiked the trail and everything and did a lot of investigation. And they found out a couple cool things, and one of them was that the guide that helped found the bones,
right,
and that helped. They actually found the shorts, I believe, too. Maybe.
Okay.
He was possibly the last person to see him before they went up onto the trail, and he asked them if they wanted a guide, and they refused, and he kept pushing himself on him. And they said that this guy was known to do that to tourists, like be too aggressive with them and try and force himself on them. And then he was doing stuff like getting in the hot spring baths with a female tourist, which is like against their code, as guides. So, the guide code. They did it. They threw it out there. I was like, wow, there's a guide code. So this guy was a person that should have been of interest, and they really showed no interest at all in him. And he even had a son that lived close to the area where they went missing or something like that.
Was he murdered?
I don't know.
So I think he was murdered. These pictures, I mean, they start off, they're at the airport, and then it's just a lot like fucking Panama, right?
Right.
And so I don't really think they were looking for dudes because she had a boyfriend, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's just her and her gal pal going on this trip, and they go down to Panama, and when they get lost and they start taking these pictures, they're super weird. They're super odd. They're like orbs, or some people say it's rain.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get rain out of that, but I guess it's rain. And then
the thing is they start out in the daytime. You can see because they could position them, and they were timestamp photos, so they knew how far they got up the trail and how quick. And they said they made it up the trail in good time, and they're in high spirits, and they're smiling, taking pictures of themselves. And all the ones in the daytime, they look happy, except for the last couple were kind of odd, where it's just pictures of Kris. One where she's staying on the rock, and this same company, they had found a photo expert to enhance the photo and kind of zoom in and see that her face was definitely changed. She wasn't smiling when she's standing on that rock. It's hard to see it.
She's anxious almost.
Yeah.
It's got this anxiety, right?
Right. So, and then that's the last one of her.
And it's not a genuine smile. It's just this.
Yeah. And that's the last one of her. And then the next pictures are all in the dark, with a flash, and they all look really weird. They're like close to the ground or looking straight up a rock wall. Perspective's really hard to figure out because you can't tell if you're looking up or down or left or right, or if you're looking at the ground or if you're looking up at the sky. It's really confusing. There's but I've seen they enhanced some of the photos too, and what they found was that there's the one that we're probably both talking about, where there's this branch that's laying on a rock, and it's got two little ripped pieces like red ribbon on it.
Yeah, what is that?
It looks like a field marker.
Oh, yeah, it kind of
like you were marking your way. And if they had enhanced somebody, he's like a forensic photographer, where he looks at these photos and he saw in the background straight lines, and straight lines don't occur naturally. So they could tell it was a line, and when he had his expert survivalist look at it, he said it looks like the ropes for a monkey bridge. So they pinpointed the location where that branch was sitting on the rock.
Really?
They found that spot. They found that bridge. It's in the background, but you can't see it because it's nighttime. So they actually found that spot where she took that picture. And ironically, her shorts were found at the other side of the monkey bridge on the rock. So that's weird, right?
That's way weird. Now I've looked at the picture a lot about the hair with the blood, and I don't see it, man, unless it's like something I don't see it either. I have also seen a picture where they say that you can see somebody standing like in the bush. Did you see that?
Yeah, they were saying, the way I heard it though was that you're looking straight down a ravine.
Right.
And that body, it's a body prone.
Right.
Laying down on the ground.
Oh.
Like,
that's okay.
Here's where she is. Here's the marker that shows which direction she is and which way the bridge is. Mm-hmm. That's part of the theories of, what's going on, what happened to him. But there are other theories that say that they were murdered, and this isn't just a case of lost hikers, that there was a third party involved, and that's none of that stuff was actually happening. It was just they were messing with the camera or trying to open their phones and use them.
Yeah, I mean, like, I never felt unsafe in Amsterdam. Never. Not one time. But when I was in Ecuador, you are constantly looking over your shoulder.
Right.
Especially my wife is blonde hair, and we were with a girl that had red hair, and they're whitey, dude. They are like Ohio white, right? And we are just like sore thumbs. And if her friend wasn't like married to a guy from Ecuador, it was the only reason we didn't just constantly get fucked with. Like, just like simple things, like, you want to go get some beers or whatever.
Right.
He's like, yeah, you're not going to get beer. He's like, I'll go get the beer. He's like, you'll get kidnapped, and it's just things like that, and I'm not saying Ecuador is a bad place at all, but I am saying, like, you're out of your element,
right?
And this part of the jungle, it's known for gang activity. They make all kinds of stuff in the jungle. It's like their manufacturing spot. You got the dirty tour guide.
The dirty tour guide.
Right.
Creepy tour guide.
Not living to the code.
Right.
And that's probably his move. He's like, okay, we got Dutch girls this time, huh? And I could see this is like a very dangerous situation.
Yeah, sure. And not to mention the 4 or 5 different types of snake that'll kill you.
Right. Plus the animals.
And the
bugs,
jaguars.
Right. Yeah. And like a jaguar, like, is no joke. They eat alligators.
Yeah. They could actually drag them up into a tree.
Right. They'll just go grab them with their jaws and pull them up out of the water. They'll chase it down.
Yeah.
Bite it behind the neck.
Right.
And then run away with it.
Yeah.
They got one
of the strongest bites.
Even though this girl's 6 foot tall, she's not big. She weighs 120 pounds, maybe. Right. And the alligator weighs 120 pounds. But jaguars are no joke, man. Like they literally will go after you and grab you. So, like, there's a lot of reasons why they would be dead. Not to mention the natural phenomena. Like you said it earlier, flash floods, which happen all the time. If it rains, which it was raining in the pictures, rain accumulates really fast.
They said that's their rainy season was getting ready to start, and the first big rain they had would have been on the 8th, and that was like those pictures were taken on the 8th, the dark ones.
So I mean, even the foot. I mean, if you die and you go like you're in a raging river. Yeah. Your tendons and stuff, they lose their elasticity. Am I saying that right? All right. So, like, it's possible you hit a couple rocks and you're like, well, it's severed. Yeah, that's how it happens, man. Like, that happens in avalanches. That happens in all kinds of situations.
Now, here's the thing. Lisanne's foot was inside her boot.
Right. But, like, if she she dies.
She had several of her bones in her foot were fractured.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, man, you're like
it's conducive of a fall.
This isn't like Cabruin River. This is like a real deal, rainforest river where like. There's jagged rocks. There's all kinds of stuff that you can get banged around on. You have zero resistance if you're dead,
And one of the things they said is they thought maybe they were trying to do the age-old survival tactic to follow the water down. Right. Well, in the rainforest, that could, mean you go off a cliff. To follow the water down, you could be putting yourself into a hole or a pit down in a cave where you can't get out of.
Yeah, I mean that's Bear Grylls.
Yep, and
that's really solid advice. Except, sometimes you end up following Niagara Falls.
And if you're in the desert, it's bad advice. You got to go the other way because if you're in the desert, eventually you'll walk out of water.
Right.
The water will be seeping back into the ground and evaporating before it gets to any body. So you screw yourself if you walk downriver and you're in the desert. If you find water, walk up river. Find the source. Just a little advice.
Okay, I'm also going to throw another thing in there, even though we kind of touched on it. But like, was this a setup? Because they go there to do this teaching assignment. They get there, and when they get there, oops, you're a week early.
Yeah,
and
they knew 6 months ago.
These girls are cute, man.
Yeah,
and I'm not gonna say jealousy, but like they're like, fuck them. Yeah, I could see in that area where that attitude is like, well, some girls came in here thinking that they're, that this is just, no big deal. And they didn't make it out. Oh, well, the rainforest won again. Not that they were like fed to the wolves, but I mean, like you said, the guy was real persistent on like giving them a tour, quotation marks.
Probably won't be up to code.
Yeah. Ladies, I got a tour for you. And, I can't help to think that maybe this is set up because every time I go out of the country, I look like a guy that wants to buy drugs. And they're like, cocaine, heroin, ecstasy. And I'm like, I just got here. Like, the airport is right there. Like,
right.
Let me hang out for a minute. Yeah, of course.
Of course. Call me later.
No, but like seriously, like you're an American, and I'm sure you get it too. You're an American, and you're like, they just see it. They see you, and they look at you, and they're like, that guy parties. Because he's very, very carefree. To look at the way he walks, he's got money because like he's not dirty. He's on vacation with his family. He's well dressed, and they're like, what else are you coming here for? You're coming here to party. Like, you want to party. And it's almost real. It's almost like persistent. Even if you say no,
yeah.
It's almost so persistent that you almost buy it just to get them away from you. Yeah. Like I remember in Tijuana, when I used to get Tijuana a bunch when I lived in Los Angeles, they would come physically grab you and bring you into a club. Right. And you don't want to get in a fight. It's the wrong country to get in a fight in. But that it's not a innocent until proven guilty place. It's a It's a you sit in jail and we'll figure it out place.
If we remember,
right? And there's no phone call. There's there's no embassy. You're not getting yourself out of trouble unless you pay them off. So like sometimes it's easier just to be like, all right, man, how much is this going to cost?
Right.
Right. Hold on. I don't want any drugs. I don't want hookers. How much for you to just leave me alone? $40? Awesome. Here's $40. Please leave me alone.
Well, to back up your theory about the Panama thing, when they were doing the investigation, when the police finally picked up the search, they got rid of all the guides.
Yeah.
And all the volunteers that were willing to help. And they didn't fingerprint anything. So, like, when they gave them the backpack, they didn't even fingerprint the people that found it from the tribe so they could disclude them from the evidence chain. They found 30 fingerprints on that backpack.
Yeah.
30 different fingerprints, and they can't do anything with them because the police didn't take any fucking fingerprints.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's like, Jesus Christ, guys.
But, like, how do you, I mean, you can fingerprint people all day, but if you can't narrow it down to, like, a group of people, I mean, I don't know what they're...
Why is there 30 fucking people touching a goddamn backpack?
You never know, man. Maybe the host was cleaning and moved it, and then, the dad at that house was like, oh, here, he moved it, and then those two probably touched it, so there's 4, and then how many people, like, hugged her at the airport? And
yeah, maybe. I don't know.
It starts getting, like, exponential, and then I mean, I guess you could go process of elimination and take people out, but I mean, I don't know. It just seems like if you don't at least have a target, a fingerprint's not going to do anything. I mean, those guys aren't, like, people in gangs in Panama aren't in a database.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's just seems...
Yeah, but they were shutting it down, It was like that, maybe like if you were truly getting like conspiracy theory, you could say like that even the Panama was in on it, like their government was in on it. Like,
well, I think probably
stuff like that happened, and
kind of like Aruba with Natalie Holloway. I mean, his dad, another Dutch guy. His dad was a judge there in Aruba. So, when they first started interviewing people, the 2 guys that were with Joran Vandersloot, they're like, hey, man, we barely know that guy.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, you do. You know where the girl is. You know where Natalie Holloway. And they're like, no. And they're like, honestly, she probably ended up with a bitch bum. And that's their pimp, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of think he killed. I think he killed her because he ended up killing another chick like a couple years later. But I kind of think he killed her, and he kind of took her away, and either she didn't want to have sex with him and he killed her, or whatever happened and he killed her. But that whole thing kind of got swept under the rug because that was a place where you can go and drink when you're 18, and when kids graduate college or high school, they go there and they party, and there's a few news outlets that said maybe we should push to not have people go to Aruba, but people are still going to go, and that it didn't hurt Aruba terrorism or Aruba tourism at all.
Yeah.
In fact,
you said, they did brush it under the rug a little bit.
Totally.
That helps.
Oh, totally. And her mom was constantly going back there and trying to organize searches, and
So 18% of Panama's GDP comes from tourism.
Right, which is a big deal.
That's a big deal.
That's a big deal because I don't think. What's 18% of our GDP?
I don't know.
I don't know what it would have
Panama.
to be. The canal.
That fucking canal.
Royalties from the canal.
Man, we had to give that one up. We're sorry we killed a bunch of people. Our bad. You can have it.
The hair picture is the weirdest one.
Yeah, that is weird. And I don't know if it's it's freaking me out that I can't see why they didn't take a picture of themselves or a picture of or a video of themselves.
Yeah.
That's a hard pill to swallow. It's why wouldn't you turn the phone around just for a second and be just in case I don't make it, video.
Yeah.
So that would lend to your, if we were playing into the theory of a third party assailant.
So,
because, if they were hiding or something like that, I don't know.
Why would you be taking pictures if you're hiding?
Well, I think if, what's her name, slipped and fell, Kris, and slipped and fell, she was trying to mark where she was at so that they could recover her body. And the forensic photographer person said that they're positive that the majority of those dark pictures were taken in the same location. They just were turning and pointing in different angles from the same location, and they could kind of verify.
It didn't have GPS though, but they have landmarks.
But no, they had the landmarks, and once they found the place where the stick is sitting, they found a couple of the other spots. Because based on that, where she took that photo from.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's pretty much it for the setup. We have that they met with foul play, a gang or some sort of guide.
Yeah, a creepy non-code following guide.
All right. Were responsible for their demise.
Mm-hmm.
We have some kind of weather, or that the jungle, the rainforest got them.
Yep.
We have an animal possibly got them.
Mm-hmm.
Or we have that there was this series of unfortunate events. Maybe one of them fell, and then it became a rescue situation, and you're on your own, and you're in the middle of nowhere. And right, am I missing anything? What other possibilities are there?
No, I think it was there was the rape and the murder, and there was the jungle gets them.
Okay.
Because whether that's an area that's prone to when that rain falls, man, those things flood quick.
Yeah,
and they start flowing,
and they're violent.
They're real violent.
All right, well let's see what we think here. Let's wrap it up.
All right.
When people ask you, what do you do for a living? Do you want to be able to tell them, I'm a producer? Well, now you can. Go to patreon.com, search everything that's weird, and sign up. We'll list you in all of the show notes and mention you in every episode. Go to patreon.com to get started today. All right, well, why don't I go first?
Okay.
And then you can jump in and let me know what you think. I think these two, it was a combination of things. Their fate was met not by one in particular. Like, what did they have a creepy guide that kept like pushing to give them a tour? Quotes. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. And then they're like, you know what? They get up to the summit and like relatively quick, because they can tell that by the timestamp of the camera.
Right.
And they said it's between 1 hour and 40 to 3 hours, and they got up in like 2 hours.
Yeah.
But they're both really healthy. I mean, the one girl, she's a volleyball player.
Yep.
But, you know, man, if you don't know your way around in the Panamanian rainforest, you don't get dicking around with that.
Right.
That you're not like in a park in the Midwest. That is very dangerous. There's a bunch of stuff that can happen to you.
Right.
So whether or not they were a victim of like a flash flood or a gang or whatever, the rainforest got them.
Yep.
I kind of think that the backpack being found in the impeccable shape that it was, either one of two things happened. They were kidnapped or held somewhere, and it was really bad for a couple days. Or one of them fell, because the trail they were on is very steep, very rocky.
Mm-hmm.
And say me and you are hiking. I'm 6'1", you're 6'4". One of us falls. It is a bear to move.
Is this going to be like when I fall in the ocean and you won't help me?
Well, no, I don't think it's like, maybe she did try to help her. You know, but like, okay, let's go with that. I fall and hit my head, and I don't just like talk funny. Like, I'm gonna die. You know, I'm gonna die, right?
Yeah.
We're in the middle of the Panamanian rainforest, and we don't know where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know where we were at when we were healthy. When we both had video game full health.
Right.
We didn't know where we were at. We were starting to panic. It's becoming nighttime. we're hearing shit walk next to us.
Yeah.
We're getting stung like crazy by mosquitoes.
Yeah.
It's starting to rain.
Mm-hmm.
It's slippery. We're on the side of a mountain. What do you do? Well, what I would do is I would try to find a place that we could like hole up for the night. I would start a fire and I would just kind of like hunker down and wait till I could see, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have to think they're smart. They wouldn't take something on like this if they didn't have like those basic skills.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take the whole gang thing out of it, that they weren't met and there wasn't a terrible last couple of days. Let's say what happens is they're trying to find a place, and when they're trying to find a place, one of them slips and falls. And when it's probably Kris, because she has that ominous photo of her head.
Mm-hmm. Plus all the missed attempts on her phone to open it.
Right, which maybe Lisanne's phone died and she's trying to open it. She doesn't, like, I don't know your code to your phone.
Right.
You don't know my. Like something so simple, you would say, "Hey, bro, by the way, it's all fives," you know? right. But like, maybe she didn't tell her that, and she probably didn't.
Yeah.
So she's, either unconscious or badly injured, and like, if you hit your head, maybe she has like a severe concussion, and she could be puking, she could be disoriented, she could be talking nonsense, and then you're like, hey, listen, why don't we find a place to like chill? And then they do that, and then the next day comes and then it's raining. And they're like, well, this isn't any better because now everything's slippery. So they do try to find a river, and they do try to like go down and follow the river. And they get to a point where there's cliffs on both sides, and she's dragging her around, and she's like, all right, listen, I can't go on with you. You got to stay here. And she finds a place for her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she gives her the backpack. Or she takes the backpack. One of the two. Probably that she gives her the backpack because there's water and there's stuff in there. She gives her the backpack. Says, here, drink this water, whatever. Well, she goes off to try to find help. And when she tries to find help, she meets her demise. And when she meets her demise, she gets caught up in maybe like a flash flood or some kind of like raging river where she ultimately drowns and dies. Mm-hmm. And when she does drown and dies, she gets her body gets the hell beat out of it by the rocks and stuff. And then,
right.
Like I said, your tendons don't hold on, your skin doesn't hold on, and you become dismembered. That's like something that happens. And, her friend Kris, who's hurt, is probably close to death anyway. That's why she left her. And she dies. And she's so disoriented, she didn't even think about the backpack. And then some people come across it later. They're like, what's this fucking backpack? And they start looking through it, and somebody's like, oh, dude, that is the missing girl's backpack. Do not fucking touch that thing. And they're like, oh, shit. Oh, shit, you're right. So they take it, and they chuck it, and it ends up by the rice paddy. That seems like a very plausible thing that would happen.
Mm-hmm.
The only other thing that seems right is that I don't see a mountain lion. I think there'd probably be blood. I don't think it was completely accidental because, the backpack probably would have been beat up, and in the, 9 weeks in the rainforest, it would be at least muddy.
Yeah, you'd think.
But unless they were held captive, and even then, the timeline of the photos, like when did they get out to take the photos? Like, what did they give them the camera? But there are some photos that are deleted, and who knows what those photos were. And they even had Dutch tech people look at it and try to work backwards on their phone to see if they could find somewhere in the phone where it was held on a disc or something inside the camera. But they said that however it happened, when it was erased off of like a computer.
Right.
But again, that could have been like they found it and hey, look at this camera, like some hikers lost their shit and we started taking pictures of each other. Like, here I am with an AK-47, right? Like, get a video of this shit.
Sitting on a mountain of coke.
Right, just fucking Scarfacing it. And then, our buddy comes in like, hey, you dummies. That's the missing girl's backpack, and that's her fucking camera. They're like, oh. And they're like, the only way, to do it, like, we got to delete all that, right? So I kind of think that probably they were low on battery on the camera. The camera didn't save it to the disc. That's why their deleted pictures weren't on the disc, or the pictures had no recognizable characteristics. So they were either black and there was nothing to see anyway. And when they went back and looked at it, what are you looking at? And it'll appear to be blank, but maybe that was the actual picture, and maybe they were just doing the picture to scare stuff away. Like, I could see if things are crawling around them and they could hear stuff in the bushes. You snap a picture.
Mm-hmm.
I would have built a fire, but they didn't look like they were smokers. They probably didn't have a lighter.
Right.
And it's raining. Not a whole lot of stuff to start a fire with.
Nope.
When everything's wet. So I kind of think they met with a combination of the jungle got them, or the rainforest got them, and some unfortunate events. One of them fell, and either the other one went to get help, or in the process of helping the other one, they both died. And when they died, they keep saying that their bones are scattered about, but there's a river that runs the whole path of where all their bones are found. So I kind of think that's what happened. I like, on this one, I'm not blaming it on the country. I don't think the gang took them and held them captive, because if you're a gang in the woods and you have drugs and you got some girls from Amsterdam and you are keeping them in a quote slave situation, what's the need to kill them? You're in the middle of the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you just keep them there?
Why they still got their phones? Why you still allow them to have their phone?
Right. So I think that's what happened to them. I think they, one of them got hurt really bad, and the other one tried to help, and either in the process of helping, they both died, or the other one just went off on their own, and she met her demise, and it's probably Lisanne, if I was going to guess. And, when our bones show up and they're like sun bleached, I mean, you don't know where they landed. Maybe they just landed on a rock, after some sort of flash flood situation, and they're exposed to the sun, and, you have animals come and they eat. The animals come and eat all the stuff they can off the bone, and then the bone sits exposed to the sun, right. And it looks white.
Right.
So that's kind of what I think to happen.
Okay. All right. Mine's a little more sinister than that.
All right.
Okay. So I do believe that the guide, the codeless creep,
yeah,
had something to do with this. And what I think happened was that he was being pushy to him. They were going on the trail anyway. He knew it. I don't know if his son had anything to do with it. They had mentioned that he had a son that lived in the area, and I'm guessing they were mentioning that because the son would have had to have been of adult age, or why else mention it?
Right.
So, but if he follows them up the hill, if he follows them up the trail, and they can't get rid of him, and they're trying to do their thing and like not get creeped out by that guy and like not jump to conclusions and stuff,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they're doing their thing and they're taking their pictures, but maybe that's why they got up the hill so fast. They were trying to get up there a little faster to just kind of distance themselves from the guy. And he caught back up with them. And so instead of going down the trail, they went the other way and tried to get away from him. And they figuring that they could go, because there's a split up there where you start going down one side of the mountain or the other. And that's the side they found him on anyway, was the opposite side. So they clearly went through it. They actually could track back their entire trek according to the photos, right? So if they go on this trek, what happened is that Lisanne's parents actually went over to Panama, and once they discovered, because they had all their own investigators to go through the forensic photos and all this stuff and break it down, and they, from guides and people, they found this route and they went on it. And when they went on it, they went down the whole thing to where the last photos were taken, and it was her parents, not even her older parents, said they didn't have a problem with the trail at all. Like it wasn't hard for them at all.
Right.
So it wasn't like an accident easily, because it wasn't as hard to traverse as people were like, well, it's the jungle. They were like, yeah, but they were on this trail and we just walked it no sweat.
Right.
So that right there tells me that something had to force an accident to get Kris in a bad position, because I do think Kris got in a bad position. I also think that's why when they were heading down the hill, they can track about where they were when they were heading down the hill, and that's their first attempt to call emergency services. It's because why else? It's the middle of the day, still daytime. Well, it's getting close to nighttime. Sun's going down, but they call emergency services.
So they actually got through once, but it dropped before they could ever say anything.
Yes.
Right, okay.
They had full. It shows their call logs. The very first one, they had full bar. They had 5 bars.
Which, by the way, my daughter called 911, and county sheriffs called us right away.
Right.
They're like, "Is everything okay?" And we're like, "Yeah." Why? What's up, guys?
Right.
They're like, "Well, you just dialed 911." So I do find that hard to believe that there was no follow up, but maybe they did try to follow up and they had
there's no location for them. So I think they're trying to get away from this guy. I think he's stalking them.
So you think that's why they took the alternate route?
That's why they took the alternate route. That's why they didn't stop to take any, hey, this is me, I might not make it, but things. They just didn't feel like they had the time to stop and do that, but they were at least doing marker photos.
And maybe they did, and
they were going, and
deleted.
those might have been the ones that he deleted, and they were taken, like we were talking about the one with Lisa, like, a couple times looking back at the camera. There's 2 times she's looking back.
She doesn't look happy.
Yeah, and it looks like they're just marking
she's real playful,
right?
Like, fucking Panama, bitches.
Right.
And then that one, she's like, fucking Panama.
So
I'm
and I think they were doing photo because they were going a different way. I think they were doing the photos as markers for the trail.
Yeah.
And so they're still trying to get away. And I think there was contact at some point. And I think that at some point he got a hold of her backpack.
Okay.
Like he came up on them and they ran and they left their backpack. And that was the last time they used it. I think she hit, if she did hit her head and they were trying to say it, or she was like, here, real quick, see if my head's bleeding. And she takes a quick picture, but they're scared to keep doing it. Some of the photos were taken, like they said, within seconds of each other, almost as fast as the shutter would click. Some of them were taken 15 minutes apart.
Right.
So it's almost like they were trying to hide the flash and not signal somebody.
Yeah, and that is true. They have a timeline online of the pictures. You're right. You're totally right about this.
Yeah. So it could have been, a couple of them could have been to real quick see where they were going. A couple of them were to just check stuff out, A couple of them where they were sitting there for a while, just scared, and, alone. And I think.
So here, I'd say 11/18/24, 11/18/34, 11/18/39, 11/18/44.
Yeah.
Then they wait 7 minutes.
Yeah.
11/25/05, 11/25/11, 11/25/27, 11/25/31, 11/25/33, 11/25/35, 11/25/45. So you're right. It's just like,
yep.
Yep.
And I think at that point, because they were so lost, and I think what they did was, they like I say, he might have been chasing me. He might even caught him out in the woods at some point.
Probably.
And he's the reason why were able to stay alive for that long, because he was probably able to keep them alive for that long. Like, here, eat this, drink this, and he had them tied up. And then maybe they got away again, and that's why when they lost their backpack, and in them running away, Kris falls and gets hurt, and she can't carry on. Maybe she's down in the ditch, like that photo was trying to say, or something like that. And I think that there's probably evidence between the nighttime photos and the daytime photos, the photos that got erased because they were in between, right? They might have taken photos of him on the trail or something.
Yeah.
Or even gave the confessional ones. You know what I mean? But they might have caught photos of him on the trail.
And, like you would say, well, why would you even leave the camera in there? But, like, honestly, you would put the camera in there because if not, you're a suspect.
Right.
And they had like $83.
Right. And they said it wasn't erased from, the only thing they could tell was that the photos weren't erased from the camera itself.
Right.
Like, they weren't, they had to be erased from an external thing. And which is really weird because they would have been in the jungle the whole time, unless they weren't, unless either he had them somewhere or he just never got them out of the jungle. And when they got away, he took the backpack and went home, and he had their phones and all that stuff in there, and then realized he better get rid of it, and stuck it out there in the river that he knew that they fell in. Once he went home, plugged it into his computer, erased the photos, he put it back in the bag, and then took it out in the jungle and put it back behind the rock. Now, here's the thing. That guy, that guide, he was
quotes. We keep putting him in quotes.
He was the guy that found the bones.
All right, so
and they said he was there when they found
thing.
the shorts.
So
too.
Like a lot of times, investigators always look at people that stay close to a crime.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because they kind of want to see how it develops.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with murders.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And he was one of the guys that there was a couple different investigators. They tried to get a hold of this guy, and there was a couple different times where he would say he'd talk to somebody and he would agree to meet, and then he wouldn't meet them, and he would just ghost them, and then he'd get real defensive when he talked to him on the phone and say, "I had nothing to do with it," and blah blah blah. And there was a chick in Panama that writes for their news station, and she said this guy has to be the number one suspect. And they didn't push it at all. They didn't even look into him or nothing. They didn't even bring him in to investigate him. And it was like, she was like, it blows my mind that they didn't even ask this guy any questions. Now, I know they brought in Kathy Wright, who, if you don't know who that is, she wrote the show Bones.
Right.
She's actually a forensic pathologist. So
fun fact: my brother was in the show Bones. No lie. That's not a lie. I'm not just saying that.
You know what episode?
Like a bunch of them. He played an FBI agent.
Did he really?
Yeah. He was
did he have any speaking lines?
I think he got one, but he was mostly the guy like with
watching the door,
pencil on his lip, like. He was FBI agent 3 with pencil on the lip. No pad in left hand.
That's hilarious.
Sorry.
They asked her about the bones because there was no marks on the bone, but see, they didn't find all the bones.
Right. Oh yeah, of course.
So if anything, something could have happened to the bones they didn't find, and the rest of them were like the parts that didn't get scratched up or whatever. But she looked at them and she explained why some of them looked like they were in different levels of decomposition, because she said it's the jungle. There's so many micro ecosystems going on in the jungle.
Right.
So bacteria could break down this thing faster than it does this thing, or certain ones got on this one but not on this one. And so I think their fate is tied to running from this guy, trying to stay away from this guy, and whether he caught them or not. And I think there's a chance that at some point he caught them, because just for the simple fact of them being out there in the jungle that long and still be alive. Like, they were out there for a while if you go by their phones. Right? And it could have been a thing where he got on there and was trying to get on when he finally got him, he was the one trying to get on the phone. He did the 77 attempts to get through the phone because he was worried maybe she had pictures of him on the phone too. Because some of them, the last few times that the phones registered weren't to make calls. They just turned on and turned back off. So that didn't necessarily have to be either one of the girls doing that.
That's interesting.
So I think he plays a role in it, and I don't know if it was that he murdered them, or if that his
and he was the last. He was the last person to see him.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was his pursuit of them that caused their death, like everything that you were saying happened. Like if they were trying to escape this guy, and in the middle of the night, Kris slipped and fell, and that was it. She either died, or she was unconscious, or she couldn't go any further. That's when Lisanne stopped and did her little thing where she made that little stick to try and signal and point, because she's not really paying attention that the picture's not so great that you can't see the monkey bridge in the background. It almost looks like she made that stick point like towards the river and towards the monkey bridge. one branch goes one way and one branch points the other way. One branch points right towards the monkey bridge and one branch points towards the river. And then the one picture is looking over where they said you can see a prone body down at the bottom if it's enhanced. Could be her looking down at Lisanne or at Kris's body, taking a picture saying she's down here, and she's marking all the spots.
Okay, so there was also a guy named Osman Valenzuela, and he had a nickname. His name was Peaky, and he ended up dying. He drowned in the... God, I'm going to destroy this. Oh, no, maybe not. The Chiriquisito River.
Okay.
And he was part of a youth gang. And after he died, in his phone, they had pictures. It's called the swimming photo. And he actually met these two. But they couldn't pinpoint the time of when the picture was taken. And he had actually helped them look for the girls too, and actually found... He was one of the people that found the remains, but then he ends up dying later. And that kind of feeds your theory, like he wasn't... So because they thought he drowned, but then he had no water in his lungs, and maybe he was just killed.
Yeah, it could have been like a setup, like, hey, we got these girls, we're going to keep them out in the jungle. Come out here when you want.
Like a Zed from Pulp Fiction?
Yeah, like, just do what you want. Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, they do not like...
Like, and it's just like there's a guy sitting on a fucking rock with, like, making sure they stay put and keeping them alive, giving them food and water. And then it's the dude's turn to watch them. And they got away. And when they got away, they fucked up and fell and got lost, and then the other one fell too because Lisanne had a fractured foot. Like, right,
we're not. I don't think we're in disagreement that they were victims of the jungle. Rainforest or jungle or whatever. But I think we both think that maybe there was some kind of foul play. I think maybe it wasn't, and that one of them got hurt and the other one was trying to help him. But it's hard to say that nothing happened to him, because like it's very weird that they show up there to do the teaching thing, and then you know what, it got rescheduled.
Right. And then there's the whole thing with God damn it, I lost my place.
That's what we can do in post. In post production, you don't lose your place.
Right. God damn it. Well, I was gonna say something too. It was important. I forgot what I was gonna say.
Well, you'll find it. Okay, yeah. But no, like the thing that really the whole thing of this story that sticks out to me the most is that they're a week early. Right. Like they set that shit up months in advance.
Yeah, and for me, it's a big deal that they don't have these like this is us in case we die photos or videos. Like something was keeping them from like taking, because you think about it, like if you were like scared alone in the jungle, you thought you were going to die, like one of your friends had a serious injury, maybe you broke your foot, she's got a freaking hole in her head, and you just think that you would take that camera and turn it on for one last time. Like, my phone hasn't worked this whole time, fuck it, I might as well make a video to say I love you to my family, It's really weird to me that there's nothing like that, or like explaining like, hey, listen, we got lost, blah, blah, blah.
Agreed.
Somebody finds this.
I agree, totally.
And I think that has to happen with either somebody erased that from when it actually did happen and it got erased, or because maybe they were doing it when he found them. And they were like, "Oh, thank God we're saved." And you're just like, "No, you're not."
But okay, so that couple we knew from Ecuador, they bought some jungle land, and they were going to clear it and build a house.
Mm-hmm.
And we went up to look at it, and Stephanie got this weird fucking rash on her leg. It was like poison ivy on steroids.
Jesus.
And she's like, "What the fuck is that?" And he looked at it, he's like, "How do you say it? Poison oak?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I've had poison oak and poison ivy. That is not..." Boy, it was like bubbling and terribly, itchy and infected, and we're in Ecuador, man. And we're like, "Shit, what is that?"
And it's killing Ecuador.
Yeah, but they don't have an FDA. He's like, I get you something. I get you steroid. You have steroid today.
Mm.
And so he's rub anabolic steroids.
What an odd connection to have.
But he did. He just he put some shit on it and it was fine. But if you're not ready for, my point is, you're not ready for that environment. You're not ready for that environment. I'm not saying just the rainforest. Yeah. I'm actually. Yeah,
there's some bug out there. It's called the kissing bug that it bites you on your lip and it makes your lips all swole up and you can, if it's not treated, you can get sepsis and die. It's really weird. I was like,
what?
Yeah.
Oh, there's shit that goes in your pee hole.
You're like, oh my god, now I gotta worry about that.
But I'm like, this is more towards your theory.
Yeah.
The jungle's the rainforest super dangerous.
Yeah.
It's also dangerous. The people are dangerous too.
So that's what my theory is based on, is that jungle, it's so dangerous, and at night and floods and all that stuff. And even though the trail's easy to maneuver, they didn't leave any video of themselves behind, and they somehow survived for days in the jungle.
The only problem I have with that is the deleted pictures aren't all at the end. If they were all at the end, then I would say yes. But
well, I don't know. I think like I'm saying, I think they were doing their thing, and then you see them kind of go off trail, and they're taking pictures of it. Look, here's where we went. And then at some point, they either meet up with him and they take his picture or something like that, and they get away from him again. And then that's when they're in that spot in the dark when they're taking all the pictures, because she's marking when they were running away that she fell and hurt herself. You know what I mean? So when he does get a hold of the backpack finally, he gets in there, takes it back to his house, deletes the photos that would be in the middle because they met him halfway through and they got away from him. And he might have caught back up with just her. The other girl might have been dead by then, caught up with her. He might have just had her out there in the woods, and then she got away again or something, or fell and broke her foot, and that was all she wrote. She died.
And I totally...
Or he just offed her, because she broke her foot, and he was like, "I'm not dragging you out of here."
Yeah, and I'm with you too. That's a big part of their tourism.
Yeah.
Their economy is tourism,
and if the guy taking you out there is a little rapey, then you're gonna take a hit to the tourism, buddy.
A little rapey. A little rapey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I totally see your side. Because I honestly don't think the gangs did it because it's too much attention.
Right.
It's too much attention because you got search crews and paramilitary and multinational search parties.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, those guys are making coke and whatever and growing weed and whatever. They don't want that attention. Mm-hmm. But the rapey cab driver is like, yeah, good luck. Good luck. I deleted all the pictures. All right, so I think we're both in agreement. I think we solved it.
Yeah, I think so.
I think Panama got the best of them.
Yeah.
And whether that was just the jungle or the jungle and people, it's pretty much the same combination.
It was still the jungle at the end.
At the end, it was still the jungle, right?
So
solved. I agree. All right. Well, I'm Anthony.
I'm Brandon.
And this is Everything That's Weird. When people ask you, what do you do for a living? Do you want to be able to tell them I'm a producer? Well, now you can. Go to patreon.com, search Everything That's Weird, and sign up. We'll list you in all the show notes and mention you in every episode. Go to patreon.com to get started today.